ready. Bitch, I'm ready. Bitch, I'm ready. Like some microwave spaghetti. No machete. Hatchet swinging. Turn me fuckboy to confetti. Swinging it steadily. Coming in heavily. Ouija the Mac. Put the Mac in the...
Hello, everybody. How are we doing today? How are we doing tonight? Wherever you are in this great big world, I hope you're doing all right. Today is Monday, March 18th, 2019. And, well, we're going to start a new series called In the Shadows, Shadow Entities. Now, this series is going to be extremely biased as it will pertain to most of my experiences. I come to find that when people talk about shadow entities, they're extremely biased, and they go by their experiences. Whether it's mainstream on Coast to Coast AM and books and literature, movies, or the witchy aminos, spiritual aminos, paranormal aminos, Facebook groups dedicated to the paranormal. It doesn't matter. Anybody who's ever encountered a shadow entity will have similar but a different encounter. I say similar because there's a few entities that people have had involving people like the HatMan, for example, or the old lady. Now, granted, there are plenty of people who've had these encounters, and they have all had similar experiences, but none of them are exactly the same. There is always at least some variation in the mix. Today's episode will be on ShadowPeople. Episode 2, ShadowCreatures. Episode 3, Shadow Demons. And then episode 4, what to do with them. What can you do? So, we're going to focus on ShadowPeople today. Now, ShadowPeople is widely believed to be the most common occurrence in the paranormal experience. I say yes, but I also say no. We'll get to that in episode 2. But ShadowPeople, humanoid-shaped shadows that you see in the corner of your eye at 3 a.m. when you're burning the midnight oil, or just any time you feel like you're being watched. Or when you're asleep and you wake up because you feel a presence. For me personally, I've never encountered the old lady that supposedly stands and watches you. I've never encountered the HatMan. But we'll get to him on episode 3. You can look up on YouTube ShadowPeople all day, every day, and you're going to get loads of information on the HatMan and all of that. Hell, you can even type in the HatMan. And, what are the common signs of a shadow entity of any sort, basically, that is near you? Well, the feeling of being watched. That is a big one. The corner of the eye. That's the grand one. You're sitting at your desk or your chair, you're doodling, you're gaming, you're writing, watching porn. Doesn't fucking matter what you're doing. In the corner of your eye, you see something staring at you. And you're like, wait, what? And there's nothing there? Or to sometimes the same thing, but when you turn, you see a humanoid shadow. For me, when I see them out of the corner of my eye, and I use my front vision, whatever the fuck that's called, I'm not a doctor, they quickly dissipate. But since I can feel energy and sense energy, I know they're still there. I know they are watching me. Now, I have a history with shadow people. Hell, I have a history with shadow entities in general, as I stated earlier. And that might be in episode 5. If you want there to be an episode 5 on that, although, technically, I have talked about it throughout my videos, but let me know in the comment section down below, and I will gladly share with you my ties with the shadow people, the shadow entities. Now, it doesn't have to be pertaining to your witchy lifestyle, your magic lifestyle. It doesn't have to pertain to that. You can be just as mundane as the next person next to you. You can be so mundane, 9 to 5, come home every night, have a headache pill ready, a beer, go to sleep, do it all over again. You can be mundane. You don't have to be religious, you don't have to be spiritual, you don't have to be anything. And you can have these experiences, these encounters. Now, a lot of people in the mundane world are gifted with psychic and empathic abilities, which I technically count being an empath part of the psychic family, but there's a couple of people that, like to differentiate the two, like make it stand out like its own branch. And that's cool, and I understand. Hell, I do it myself. But in all technicalities, being an empath, being empathic, is all part of your psychic self. Now, mundane people, they can be just as open as any practitioner of magic, any spiritualist, anybody in the craft. Doesn't matter. It's open for everybody. Some people don't even know it. And this goes into psychic vampirism, but we're not talking about that. Now, you can. I gotta be delicate how I say this, because when you are a practitioner of magic, doesn't matter what kind, you don't even have to be psychically strong. That's how I wanted to say it, psychically. You don't have to be psychically strong. You can be open or closed as much, whatever. But when you do magic, What are you doing? You are building a force of energy. And you're basically lighting a match in a dark room. Like a moth to a flame. You are turning on the light in the dark for everything in that radius to see you. And that attracts all kinds of entities and creatures and what have you. I've talked about that before. I made an amino blog called What Magic Brings. I think there's a video somewhere on my channel. I don't know. It's been... shit. It's been 3 years. So anyway. And this brings entities. Like I said. You know, you don't have to intentionally summon a shadow entity or a person. You don't have to intentionally do it. You just bring them. You attract them. Whether that's not your goal or not. Or, you know what I mean. I'm getting distracted by these damn kids playing outside. I'm here in my car at the old house. I digress. Now, some will say that they're evil, that they're bad, that they're the spawn of the devil. Some will say, you know, I've never had a bad encounter. They just stand there and watch me. Some will say, especially pertaining to the old lady or the HatMan, that they've felt like they've been attacked and they claim to be attacked. It runs the gambit. Now, personally, I've never been attacked by a shadow entity. I've never been attacked by a shadow person. I have been attacked by other entities, but not a shadow creature of any type. Not a shadow person of any type. Not a shadow being of any type. I know I seem like I'm repeating myself, and I apologize. The most I have ever gotten out of a shadow person is just standing there and watching me. That is the most I've ever gotten out of a shadow person. And I've always been awake. And it's always been around the 2 to 3 o'clock hour. I've had some encounters, not many, but a few, in the daytime. As a lot of them pertain to being nocturnal, in my opinion, in my experiences, in my encounters. There are some times where I have seen them during the day. And, you know, like I said, people have different experiences, and that's fine. That's totally fine. But it's all usually biased, so... Not once has any of them ever hurt me. Basically, they just come and stand there. And when I acknowledge their presence, they don't do nothing. They just stand there. And it's always near me. But like I said, that would be in episode 5. And if you want to hear more about that in episode 5, well, let me know if you want an episode 5. They can be, aggressive. They can be benevolent. Some are malevolent. They're just like us, just shadows. Where do they come from? That's anybody's guess. Your guess is as good as mine. Some say from a different dimension. Some say from hell. Some say from the ether, the astral. Me personally, into regards of shadow people, I would classify them as interdimensional. They're coming through the angles of reality. See what I did there? Corner of your eye. Corner. Angle. So, that's just my personal belief. Some are, like I said, benevolent. Some are malevolent. And some are just neutral. I always tend to get the neutrals. I think that's about it for shadow people. There really isn't much to add, because in episodes 2 and 3, that's where a lot is going to, come out. So, again, it's just however you want to take it. I mean, there's this one person on Coast to Coast AM that talks about shadow people all the time. The HatMan. Just look up Coast to Coast AM, Shadow People on YouTube, and you'll get some excerpt from it, or perhaps the full episode. Distinct differences in their appearance. Some people say they see eyes glowing. Some people say some wear clothes and all that. Me, personally, I just see a dark, shadowy, humanoid figure, and that is it. Now, my mind's eye will put like a face to it, but very rarely will it do that. My mind's eye will see the shadow entity or being or person or whatever. My mind's eye will see it as the way the energy feels from it. And that's just a straight shadow. Just a straight dark shadow that kinda, and I use this very loosely because any other time I've seen them, it was always in a lit room. But there was a couple of times where I've encountered shadow people outside of my door at the old house, because my room is basically being separated from the kitchen. There's like a wall that separates my room from the kitchen. And my door, if you've ever seen my house, you know what I'm talking about. You can see it in some of my earlier videos. But I've always had my door open when I lived with my mom. off and on, or at least had my door open, and the kitchen would be, the kitchen lights would be turned out and all that. I'd have my little lamp on my table. And I would see them out the corner of my eye standing outside my door, but just enough to make out their frame, kind of like them having an aura. No eye glowing, no nothing, just kind of like a aura frame, of a human. But yeah. So if you see a shadow person, don't freak out. Don't, go and banish them away, because a lot of the times they're mostly neutral. I mean, like I said, you will get the occasional malevolent, aggressive one, but it's usually more or less just neutral people, just neutral shadow people, and that's it. They're just standing there watching you. Now, if you do happen to get a malevolent one, well, then yeah. And we'll discuss that in episode 4. So, yeah. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for episode 2. So be sure to click that little bell icon. Subscribe if you haven't. If you want to follow me on social media, the links are in the description. If you want to join me on Amino, the links are in the description. Be sure to read the description, as some things don't get put into the video. Some funny things get put into the description. You never know with me. I'm a loose cannon. I have renegade ways. I'm a lunatic, don't you know? So I'm capable of doing anything. Okay, guys, gals, and others. That being said, thank you so much for watching. I love you all. I'll see you next time. Bye.